Alright folks, in this video I'm going to take this Intel Celeron G5900, no longer the world's fastest Celeron, put it in this Gigabyte Gaming X Z490 motherboard, Z490M motherboard, and we're also going to install this CPU cooler. Assuming that the CPU cooler is actually going to work, because even though Amazon says it would work, the instructions don't give me a warm and fuzzy that it's compatible. So we shall see how it goes. Now, first thing I'm going to do is pop this open. So we can accept our CPU. I'm going to pull it out of this one. So this is my worst motherboard right here. And this is my worst 10th gen CPU. So we're going to drop that in there. Good idea, you know, to have your electrostatic gear in place. I'm just kind of doing this because I don't really care about the CPU. But if you had a really nice CPU, definitely do that. I like to give it a little side shift. A lot of times, you know, you look for this triangle on the CPU, matches up with the triangle on the cover. All right. So we know that's in. There's also protrusions right here and right here on the socket that this basically will fit really only one way. All right. So once we do that, we're going to rock this thing down, and then boom, that pops off. Save this for later. Put it in the box. All right. Now, next step, we're going to put this bracket underneath it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is basically come from the underneath, and you'll see 4 holes here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. This guy is going to fit underneath that. So because I'm using a cell phone instead of my good camera, we're going to have to do this a little differently than I would really like to do it. Basically, you're going to push these in, line them up, and then when you flip it over, hopefully they'll stay in. So let's do that. Okay, so you can see they're just barely sticking through. Alright, so since this is Intel, we use the Intel ring that was included. And basically we're going to place this over the threaded fasteners that are in there. And then there are 2 sets of screws in here, okay? You only want to use the ones for the Intel. And actually, double check that statement. There's 2 different sizes of Intel motherboards, so it would appear we want to use this one, okay, the smaller screw. So put the other ones aside in case you're going to use it for something else. So for this next step, you're going to want a number 1 or a number 2. And I've already fed this one through, but you know, basically you're going to drop this in and get it started with your fingers and then follow up with the screwdriver. So we'll do that for all 4 of these guys, and hopefully everything will line up good. Alright, so a little tip here. This goes into the little hole, okay? I failed to mention that. So you want to put them in a little hole, and the other hole is for the bigger screws that we're not using. Alright, so once we get them all in here, we're just going to kind of, you know, get, I'll say 3 or 4 threads each time we have engagement, each time we touch our Phillips head. We're just kind of going around. We don't want to over tighten one side first. And we'll do this until it gets tight. So it's starting to get tight. I'm going to have to drop the phone and hold on to the motherboard so we can get these completed. Alright folks, a couple of tips. Sometimes directions are not that easy to read, or you don't want to follow them good, but what you want to look for are these clips on here, and you need these for orientation purposes. So we're going to have our fan look like this, okay? This is the intake side. It's going to suck in air from inside the case, blow it across the CPU cooler, and out the back, okay? So obviously where these are is going to be the back of the case. And so now we know our orientation, okay? When we put our little plastic bracket in, we need to look for those clips. So there they are. That means it's got to be oriented like so, all right? Now I'm sure the instructions say something similar. Blah, blah, blah. All right, now, since we're using the smaller screws, we're going to use the smaller hole, and that's got to feed through there. And basically we're going to get a couple threads on each one of these and then tighten it down with our screwdriver. All right, so we've got them all in. We've got them lined up. We've got a few threads of contact, and I'm just going to go around in circles. Maybe not around in circles, but I don't want to over tighten one of these before I get a few threads on all of them, right? So make sure they're actually lined up. It's in there. So now I'm just going to tighten them all the way down. All right, so it's on there nice and tight. And once it's on there tight, you don't hear that chatter anymore of it moving around. You know, be careful though. These are, this is made out of plastic, so it's not probably going to handle, you know, being torqued down harder than it needs to be. So from here, folks, we don't have a lot of steps left. Thermal paste, and then somehow get this bracket on here, which is going to be fun. These are my least favorite type of brackets, I'll tell you that much. Alright, so at this step you would actually cut the thermal paste container open so that you could get thermal paste on here. I'm going to use some of this cheap Chinese crap I have lying around and do it that way. Plus I need to get rid of this. So we'll hold on to this for another day. I'll put it back in the box. Let me get this open. So sadly, these guys don't tell you how much thermal paste to put on here. You know, if you're going to go with the AM4, I believe NOC 2 would say 4 to 5 millimeter in diameter. If you're going with an Intel LGA 1151, that style, you would go with about 4 millimeter in diameter. All right, so, you know, if you haven't ever done this before, you might want to, you know, do a little practice, maybe measure out 4 to 5 millimeters and drop a bead down as so. Now this stuff is sticking to my paper towel. It's actually getting a little thick. So I'm going to try and get some of this out of here, get us a good bead. Alright, so let's go ahead and put this right in the middle. And there we go. Now I would put the cap back on, and then we'll get this ready. Next step is to make sure you remove this plastic off here. Plastic is not a conductor, right? So it's going to cause you problems if you don't get it out of there. Now here's what they say for the next step. Position the product and install the mounting bracket to the AMD guides on the motherboard. Hook the plastic hanger from the AMD guide onto the mounting bracket. Alright, so here's where the fun comes in. You've got to basically loop that over onto your plastic ring and do the other side. So not a lot of fun usually, but this one might be a little different. You've got these tabs on both sides, so I'm going to work that and talk about what I did after the fact. Alright folks, so to get this on here, I actually had to remove the fan, really work this thing in on this side because it's such a tight fit. Now, if you have a motherboard that's got this kind of housing on it, life's going to be a heck of a lot more difficult than if you don't have this on there, okay? So, we got both sides on. Now I'm going to put the CPU fan back on, and we've got to put these brackets on. Alright, just so you can see it, you've got to put the ends in the hole basically on top. Alright, just like that, and then you're going to pull this down and back in, and hopefully that'll fit in the groove and work as well as the other side. But that's what it looks like, folks. So from there then, we just have to plug in our CPU fan. It's a 4-pin, and it's going to go right in this one right there. If I can get it in there. I think so. Nice and tight on this motherboard. And boom, that's in. So from here I will hook everything up and give you an idea of what it looks like with the lights on. Alright, so we're slowly getting this set up. I'm using a little cheat button here for cheat cable, whatever, to power this up. We'll put eventually I'll put an M.2 in here. We got one stick of RAM in here, and got to make a couple more connections that'll be ready to fire up for y'all. Alright, so let's turn this thing on, and there you go. So it changes on its own. It does not appear that it is well, it doesn't have an addressable RGB, so I'm, at least as of right now, I'm unsure that you can do much more than deal with the rainbow that it does. So there you have it, folks. Installation, it's working, and tight fit for this style motherboard. So like I said, you may want to consider a different type CPU cooler if you've got this kind of setup. Thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.